The National Sea Rescue Institute is hard at work on South Africa's beaches. Holidaymakers are flooding to the country's coastal areas. Several search and rescue operations have already been undertaken. And for an update, we're now joined by the NSRI's spokesperson, Craig Lambinon. Good evening, Craig. Thanks very much for your time. How are things looking this time around compared to previous years around this time?
Good evening. Thank you very much. So there have been a number of incidents since the start of the holiday season. We are continuing to urge the public to have a safety-conscious mindset. We're continuing to urge the public to go to beaches only where and when lifeguards are on duty, obey the instructions of the lifeguards, and swim within the safety marcated swimming zones that they post daily on the beaches using their red and yellow flags. Sadly, yesterday, a 6-year-old child drowned in a wilderness, and although it does appear that it has been quieter than previous years, that is largely due to the fact that the lifeguards, law enforcement officers, the NSRI and emergency services are on high alert and on the beaches, physically on the beaches, assisting the public with all of the things that they encounter in an emergency situation.
How much of an awareness is there about where there could be, or there are, or aren't lifeguards available? Do people know, or how would they know whether a particular place where they would like to swim has lifeguards or not?
The easiest answer for you is if you get to a beach and there are no lifeguards on duty, that means that there are no lifeguards on duty at that beach. But you can go to every province has a web page, the provincial web page, which shows which beaches have lifeguard duty. But we are urging the public, if they get to a beach and there are no lifeguards on duty, if they've got their family with them, they need to pick up and go to a beach where there are lifeguards on duty. But you can look that up on web pages from each province around the coastline, and see where the lifeguards, and also what time the lifeguards are physically on duty. Remember that the lifeguards aren't on duty 24 hours a day at these beaches. So if you go to a beach and there aren't lifeguards on duty, make sure that you don't go too deep into the water. Watch out for rip currents, and make sure that your children have responsible adult supervision if they're swimming in any waterway, even if it's an inland waterway, even your swimming pool at home. You need to have a responsible adult supervision for children in any water.
Is there a shortage generally of lifeguards in the country?
So the lifeguards are posted by two manners. One is that the municipalities employ lifeguards to be at the beaches, and then you've also got surf life-saving lifeguards, and then a number of other volunteer organizations or NGO lifeguard organizations around the coast, particularly talking about the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast, where we have the Tower 13 lifeguards. In Belito, there's a whole different rescue operation happening at their beaches. So it's well covered. There are a lot of lifeguards on duty at this time of the year, and we're urging the public to make sure that they familiarize themselves when they go to a beach where the lifeguards are on the beach. If they get separated from their families, the lifeguards are there to help you, but also law enforcement, police, and emergency services are deployed to beaches, particularly the busy beaches, and they're there for the public's safety, and they can be approached at any time for assistance if you need assistance.
Are you getting as much help as you need as the Institute from local authorities across the country?
Yeah, so it's well covered at the moment, and also a lot of interrelationships between the different departments, the different emergency services. We're all in communication with each other and able to respond to any emergency. And remember that a sea rescue emergency gets a massive response. It's not only lifeguards and NSRI that respond, it's also law enforcement, the provincial ambulance services, police, the fire and rescue services who have a dive unit, the police dive unit. It's a massive response to an emergency, but we're also urging the public to know the emergency number 112 from your cell phone, or you can Google the NSRI webpage, www.nsri.org.za. There's a lot of safety tips for the public on our webpage.
You have just cautioned people against swimming too deep into the water. You have spoken also about adult supervision where children are concerned. But what are the most common mistakes that people make which lead to drownings and so on?
So the greatest cause of drowning is rip currents. And rip currents are difficult to see if you're a layman and you don't know what a rip current looks like. And they also form at different places constantly throughout the day. So rip currents, the lifeguards are looking out for the rip currents. You'll notice in the middle of the day they might move their red and yellow flags to another part of the beach. They're doing that because a rip current is formed where they had earlier had their safe demarcated swimming zone, and it's now formed in that place. They've asked the public to move to the left or to the right, and they've reposted. Rip currents are the greatest danger. If you find yourself caught in a rip current, don't try to fight against the current. As difficult as it sounds, let the current take you out to sea. Simply stay afloat, using your arms and legs in circular movements. That's treading water. At your first opportunity, swim parallel to the beachfront until you're free of the rip currents, and then use the incoming waves to get back to shore. While this is happening, shout for help. The people on the beach can alert the lifeguards, and if there are no lifeguards there, they can call the NSRI. And remember that the NSRI is on duty 24 hours a day, every day of the year, ready to respond to any emergency with the full might of the emergency services backing us up. So you do need to speedily call sea rescue if there is a sea rescue emergency.
It's probably too late now for those who would not have done it already, Craig. But is there or are there things that people can do prior to, in other words, long before the holiday season starts, to actually prepare themselves for some of these undesirable but real eventualities?
That is a beautiful question, because we have encouraged families to prepare long in advance before they go to any waterway, not only the coastal waterway, but even your inland dams, rivers and lakes that people go to over this holiday season. Prepare. You can the wealth of information on the internet about the environment that you're going into, a wealth of information on the NSRI website about safety around water, but also if you're going to the beach, know what the local emergency numbers are. And I guess it's the same as if you're going for a walk in the mountains. Know the emergency telephone numbers and have a plan in place before you get to the environment that you're going to be enjoying this recreational time in.
Craig, thanks very much for your time this evening. The National Sea Rescue Institute's spokesperson, Craig Lambinon.